If there's one dish that could make the English dictionary sit down and sigh, it's corned beef. You read the name, you open the can, you slice into it, and there isn't a single kernel of corn in sight. Even stranger, this dish shows up everywhere, from Hong Kong noodle soup to New York sandwiches. From British military rations to modern dinner tables wearing an innocent face. As if it never misled anyone. But the real question lies beneath that deep red slab of meat. Why has the corn in corned beef never changed its meaning? Even though the world now understands corn as bright yellow maize, one word that defies time. One recipe that traveled across 3 continents. 1400-year-old secret packed into salt crystals the size of pebbles. The deeper you dig, the clearer it becomes. This isn't just a story about meat. It's a linguistic fossil that survived migrations, wars, and centuries of change. To decode it, we have to return to medieval England. Back then, corn did not refer to a specific crop. It meant any distinct grain or small particle. Salt was produced in large crystals, sometimes several millimeters across. Bigger than peppercorns, so people called them corns of salt. When beef was cured with these coarse crystals, it was described as corned. Literally, the beef had been covered with grains of salt. History took an unexpected turn when Europe encountered maize from the Americas. The new crop spread rapidly and became important enough to claim the word corn for itself. But salted beef, which had existed long before maize arrived, kept its original name, like an old storefront sign that refuses to change even as every neighboring shop renovates. What makes this fascinating is that language usually adapts. Words shift. Meanings evolve. Expressions fade. Yet corned beef resisted. It stood still while English moved forward. Every time you open a can, you are, in a sense, opening a small time capsule. The dish also carries a social paradox, a humble food that was once anything but humble. Corned beef is often labeled an Irish staple. But historical records tell a harder truth. During the 17th and 18th centuries, Ireland was Europe's largest producer of salted beef. Irish farmers raised cattle, cured the meat with salt, and packed it into barrels. But most of it was exported to England, to continental Europe, to wealthy buyers. A single barrel of corned beef could cost the equivalent of several days or even a week's wages for a poor laborer. Imagine growing cacao your whole life without ever tasting a fine 70% chocolate bar. That was the irony. Irish farmers survived largely on inexpensive potatoes, while Irish beef became a luxury for those who could afford it. The irony deepened during the Great Famine in the mid-19th century. As Irish immigrants arrived in America, they finally began eating corned beef, but not the Irish export version. Instead, they consumed an American reinterpretation produced by Jewish butchers following kosher standards. The so-called national dish became, in effect, an imported remix. In the 1800s, Jewish communities in New York built a powerful meat processing industry. Their kosher curing methods emphasized careful salting and hygiene, producing a version of corned beef that was often more tender and flavorful, better suited to American tastes. This version entered countless delicatessens and became the heart of iconic sandwiches like the Reuben. By the early 20th century, American-style canned corned beef was circulating throughout the British Empire. Hong Kong was one of its destinations. Rapid urbanization created demand for food that was affordable, filling, and convenient. Corned beef found a new home in noodle soups, scrambled eggs, and bakery buns. In one winding journey, a European salted meat refined by Jewish producers in America became a breakfast staple in Hong Kong kitchens. A culinary migration crossing continents, cultures, and generations, yet still carrying a name that has confused people since the 17th century. And there's one more layer to the story. Something that makes corned beef not just a dish, but a fossil of the age of exploration. Look at its path. Large-grain salt preservation techniques, British trade networks, Irish migration, Jewish delis, Hong Kong street food. Each stage leaves a trace. Yet what truly sets it apart is its name, a word that has survived 4 centuries of linguistic change without revision. It reminds us that language is more than communication. It's a historical record. A single word can preserve the social and economic context of the era in which it was born. Every time we say corned beef, we unknowingly echo how 17th-century Europeans described coarse salt crystals. We use a term whose original meaning has vanished from daily speech, yet remains preserved on ingredient labels. In a world where language shifts rapidly through social media and digital culture, that endurance feels unusual. It's like discovering an intact brick in a pile of ruins and realizing the meal you just ate is the final surviving piece of a centuries-long story. If you enjoy uncovering the hidden histories inside ordinary objects and everyday foods, you're in the right place. The next story might make you look at something sitting in your refrigerator and think, "Wait, this has a history too?" Follow along so you don't miss the next layer of the mystery.